Cool. I think without much ado, I'll start. So we are Nix Whistle. We are in the business of. Are you able to hear? Are you able to hear Patrick, John? Can give me a thumbs up. Okay, I'm assuming so. I'm just going to start. Hopefully, I'm not on mute. Okay, I'm not on mute. So the agenda is first I'll talk about ESG and then ESG ethics 2.0 and then where the industry is heading, the 3.0. And there are some blockchain world which is coming with the Web 3.0. I'll talk a few of those. Also, how this world is bridging between 2 and 3.0 through a 2.5. So, and also maybe we can discuss some way forward, other stuffs in case you have thoughts. I'll open up the bridge. Patrick, I'll make you as a kind of a co-host in case anybody else joins. Please permit. Okay. So, with respect to environmental social governance, we have got mostly the world is talking a lot about environment and a little bit about social and very little about governance. So, or maybe a part about governance and very little about social. So let's try understand. This is from one of the ratings industry companies' way of understanding ESG. ESG, everybody have their own understanding. Let us see how this is interpreted. So if you look at ESG, these are the major 4 aspects which are contributing to E of the ESG: biodiversity, climate change, pollution, resources, water security. And with respect to governance, anti-corruption, corporate governance, risk management, tax transparency. These are the 4 areas. And with respect to social, there are aspects like human rights and community, health and safety, customer responsibility, labor standards. See, the companies have figured out, even the ratings agencies have figured out a way to arrive at the environmental aspect of carbon emission and a bunch of things. With respect to governance, there are a few aspects like anti-corruption, which is measured by right now through the penalties what organizations are being levied with respect to FCPA and few other regulations, and tax transparency also with respect to regulations or any actions, the regulatory actions with the tax regulators have on the company. So the corporate governance and risk management, it's primarily determined based on the publicly available risk register, what the companies are making available through their public filing. As well as the corporate governance is mostly the public data, what they are submitting as part of their annual filing. So these are the bunch of data which I think industry is able to comprehend with respect to both E and S, E and G. And S, I think it's hugely primarily contributing towards the controversy aspect of it, which is towards mostly workforce, human rights, and community and product responsibility. We will see some examples the slides ahead as to how this is being measured. But with respect to controversies, you may be able to kind of really don't have a very good mechanism of identifying the controversies which is popping to the rest of the world, and which is kind of a small controversy which is popping to that particular organization's local geography. So this is a very subjective thing. Measuring S is still a very subjective stuff for whole of the ESG landscape. Let us try to understand how the ethics is being particularly measured with respect to the context of social. Today, I'm going to primarily kind of address a few things on the ethics aspect, because this is what we do. We are an ethics reporting platform, automating the ethics reporting systems with the help of blockchain. So the ethics reporting landscape is kind of now trying to expand to extended enterprise, where they are trying to look at sustainable and ethical supply chains, not just the corporations. Let's see a few examples. Apple had this issue 12 years before with Foxconn. So where they outsourced a large amount of stuff to Foxconn China, and they have had a lot of controversies like suicides, wage and hours exploitation, serious accidents, underage and illegal workers. After 12 years of trying to whitewash Foxconn China operations as their vendor, finally Apple now have made a decision to bet on India, and Foxconn is setting up in India on behalf of Apple. So I think primarily it shows that there is a effort made, but still it's not helpful for that particular corporation because they are a vendor, they are an extended enterprise. Apple still have been comprehending how they can address in the future, but still it's like your extended enterprise also can impact your market capitalization. I think which was evident in the Foxconn issue. Apple took a real dent with respect to reputation, market, kind of rated them very badly on those days of this Foxconn issue came out 12 years ahead. So, and UBS, let us take a look at UBS. UBS is a Switzerland headquartered bank, a global bank. And they had this issue in 2012, 10 years ago, on Libor. Libor is one of the standards expected by the trading departments of the bank to be complied. And there was a multi-year scandal to manipulate Libor and the few other benchmarks. It led to $1.5 billion penalty. And it also triggered a significant decrease in the value, market value of UBS stocks and other things, which certainly took a big dent. And British Petroleum had this deep water horizon spell again 12 years ago. This costed the company put together $60 billion. The kind of collaborated with many governments in trying to fix this, as well as the signs of the oil spill still persist over a decade. We have seen almost all FTSE 100 firms having a dip in their market value, almost 5.43% after some regulator usually figures out any wrongdoing prompts. Put together, it has costed 115 billion pounds over the course of years. Usually, this market rating takes a beating once after any regulatory issues are found. And ESG Ethics 2.0, basically, let us see how the industry has been operating before and now where it is setting. ESG 2.0 industry has been looking at maybe fourth and nth parties now, but previously it was primarily looking at diversity, equity, and inclusion, few aspects of the ethics. So, for example, organizations have made an initiative towards set up diversity, equity, inclusion initiatives and teams towards improve the diversity. At least California has made a law. It is being challenged now in the Supreme Court, and it's being quashed. But still, they have made an effort to improve the diversity in the even the board, public organizations board of California companies. So California state has passed a regulation on that note. It has certainly helped on the increase of diversity from the top down. And also many other stakeholder groups are keeping the organizations accountable for ESG progress. For example, sustainability plans, ESG reporting and disclosures, regulatory compliance and governance, ESG related data and metrics. Many of this are kind of the past way how organizations were measuring the ethics also. Mostly it was a self-disclosure organizations, how they are managing their ethics posture with respect to ethics reporting, how many complaints they have received with respect to fraud, waste, abuse, etc. How they handle those investigations, how they were able to resolve those is what is expected out of their reports by regulators these days. And also organizations are expected to give sustainability plans. And the ethics risks, it's not a single implementation, it is a journey, which is what it has become visible. And it's also become a unified experience and cross program visibility now. So the extension of the ethics to be followed from the corporation to the nth and fourth parties is a very important phenomenon in the supply chain industry. So from Apple to every corporation in the even in the retail industry, this is impacting. It's not just you are taking care of the standards, regulations, policy systems of your corporation. You are expected to pass upon some of the values to your own extended enterprise, which is the evolution has been happening from 2.0 to 3.0. So the ethics risks are not just your own corporations, it's also your own extended enterprise too. And at least organizations, if not fourth and nth parties, they have started demanding third parties to act with integrity when it comes to safety, sustainability, corporate governance, and human rights. For example, in Apple Foxconn's case, Foxconn may be the third party which Apple may be engaging. Foxconn may be engaging with maybe 10 or 100 other fourth parties, and there may be 1,000 other nth parties who may be involved with respect to helping Apple to develop their systems. But still, maybe right now the insistence of values are just relying on with respect to 2.0 primarily towards third party, and it is evolving towards fourth and nth parties. So brand reputation is the number one reason businesses are engaging in ESG. This is another 2.0 effect where, according to OCEG, many organizations are kind of moving away from a box checking exercise towards now they are expecting organizations to have structures inside and also processes. So this is not to just to comply, but to thrive and also enhance upon, which is a very good phenomenon. 78% of the respondents out of this OCEG survey have mentioned maybe just because of the brand as well as reputation associated, everybody wants to comply to ESG. It's a reputation, which is the very primary angle. And managing ESG risks across extended enterprises. With respect to ethics, it's not just your corporation is following ethics. For example, if Foxconn is engaging in some bribery activity to set up their operations in India, so it may be impacting Apple as well in the market, as well as in the reputation, as well as with respect to complying of multiple regulations. So supplier ethics is becoming a very important aspect. Organizations started measuring this in the due diligence process as well. So the usual other supply chain risk management questionnaire started having a few questions around ethics these days, and the profiling the vendor based on their assessments. So usually the self-disclosure and assessment responses are helping corporations to assess the risk profile of their suppliers, and based on which they are able to determine what are the policies, processes they should push, and the due diligence of whether the organizations have are under any watch or sanction list, are they working with any politically exposed region or person, or security ratings, financial ratings, reputation, brand list. So all of this are kind of now part of the initial due diligence itself for organizations to look at this ethics aspect. And also there is going to be this ongoing annual due diligence to continue be a vendor. And also not that just that, even on a quarterly basis or a biannual basis, there are different regulatory specific questionnaires expecting validations from all the third parties any corporations are engaging. Let's take the example of even the same Apple. So Apple may be expecting Foxconn to all other vendors to be supplying them a different set of responses and on their questionnaires, to kind of so that they will be able to comprehend that and submit it to the regulators like SEC and others. So key ESG requirements. So even the extended enterprise is expected to have cybersecurity, data privacy, financial risk, overall risk management system, risk mitigation systems to present a holistic view of each third party. So this is becoming a very important new phenomenon. This is according to GRC 2020, Michael Rasmussen. ESG 2.0. So these are the usual frameworks which are guiding the general organization's ESG measurement. For example, Global Reporting Initiative, SASB Standard, Responsible Mineral Initiative, Value Reporting Foundations, Carbon Disclosure Project, United Nations Sustainable Development Goal, Task Force on Climate-Related Financial Disclosure. These are the few many regulations which are guiding how organizations should measure ESG and kind of as a framework, they have different weightages for different metrics which can be measured. These are the other data service providers, for example, Bloomberg, Dow Jones, MSCI, Thomson Reuters, Standard and Poor, ISS, Fitch, and Moody's. These are the few many who are providing data services around the ESG framework for organizations to capture, measure, and also report it to regulators. They work with many other vendors to kind of collect data, also collect data from the publicly available resources. ESG ethics 2.0, 3.0 to 2.0. So the ethics regulations, these are the few regulations I thought I'll try to focus upon, which is guiding the future of ethics aspect in the ESG, which may go under some parts of S and G. So European Union is the first one who have seen this opportunity of helping corporations not to retribute on employee becoming whistleblower. They have come up with a directive in 2019. 10 member countries already have passed as a regulation. And SEC is also improving the ESG disclosure guidelines with respect to this whistleblowing. So these are two important developments. And other than this, as I said before, the previous other regulations, whatever we have seen, conflict minerals, RMA, ESG, and the task force on climate related financial disclosure, many of these regulations have started focusing on the ethics aspect of it. For example, let's take a look at UK Bribery Act. UK Bribery Act is very much towards both social and the governance aspect of ESG, where they are expecting the companies to validate supplier anti-bribery practice and with external verification and monitoring. It's not just they just want to uh, ask the companies and the suppliers to just do a self-assessment questionnaire. It's much beyond that. They also have kind of a watch list where the different organizations are being penalized by different regulators and governments for bribery activities. So that's where this is coming in, and this is a very sophisticated act from the European region, but still it's followed across globe because a lot of the organizations have a strong business in the European region. Modern Slavery Act is again another UK-centric one, which is expecting an organizations to publish an annual statement how they are not kind of having any modern slavery in their business or their supply chain, which is also a very good one. There are a lot of industries like mining. This is becoming a very important, and a lot of lot of corporations who are having a strong business in Africa, different other parts. Where there are ethnic majorities, so they are expected to comply to this very religious fashion. And in the US context, there is a Foreign Corrupt Practices Act, which is helping corporations to improve their corporate governance practice by requiring companies to maintain the records. This is towards primarily accounting, where they are expecting corporations not to do any corruption at their foreign subsidiaries. So, in case if they are detecting some suspicious transaction, at least the headquarters, which is situated in US, should figure out whether that is leading to bribery. Even if there are some suspicious transaction activities, they should have a separate register called suspicious activity register, where they should document this for the regulator to come and audit. So, and now we have got California Transparency in Supply Chains Act, which is also expecting the corporations to uh, document their efforts towards how their goods are not produced by workers who are forced into servitude. So, which is a great effort, considering that there are corporations in California and across US. They are procuring a lot from China, different markets where the worker labor standards are not very sophisticated. So, European Corporate Due Diligence Act is another act which is expecting all European Union member states to enforce human rights and environmental laws at weakest points, particularly the third-party relationships. Those are the weakest points of any organization's value chain. They may be able to imbibe the strongest values in their own corporations, but when it comes to outside their organization, they are not in a position. That's where this is coming. So beyond this, UN Human Rights Council, Paris Climate Accord, German Supply Chain Act, GRA, RMI, CDP are few other acts and regulations in this note. which is guiding this ethics 3.0 of ESG. And the ESG ethics 3.0 is mostly moving as a purpose-built ethics for ESG and simplifies the process of ESG ethics data capture, engagement, oversight, and disclosure. So there is this multi-dimensionality ethics materiality framework. There are corporations like ours who are building features on this, where there is a multi-dimensional aspect of how ethics can be measured. So based on not beyond stated policies and procedures and current incidents and events. So there can be industry specific material risk which can go into this. And these are the few bunch of data points with respect to ethics reputation, which is going in this ethics 3.0 world. Um, I think a few of those are in the ethics 2.0 world, like corporate governance, material ESG issues. Few others, what I am going to mention, may not be there in a very structured fashion. So, for example, like a black swan event, idiosyncratic issues, human rights and community relations, occupational health and safety, selling practices, employee engagement, diversity, equity, and inclusion, geography and incident history, business model and financial strength, customer privacy, worker safety training, supply chain labor standards, consumer financial protection, corporate citizenship, and philanthropy. So many of these aspects are not usually taken into account in the past, which are improving with respect to the future. So, for example, even how organizations are labeling their products, whether it is ethically right or is it misleading, and also safety and quality, access and affordability. So, and also magnitude of impact on company, stakeholders, environment, and company. So, probability of impact on company. So, all of these are different aspects which are going into ethics 3.0. And even there are players like ours who are working on features like ethics API, where making more data available so that organizations, multiple data service providers can collaborate, focusing on this ethics aspect of the ESG, which will help them measure a little more on SNG, where there can be deeper analysis and clearer kind of documentation of rating of the companies. So right now, if we were to rate the top 100 companies who are ethical in nature in North America, there is no rating available per se. So, and there are no other corporations who can take a data for their own reporting purposes. So, and this lack of this data feed and API. So, we are kind of trying as a technology innovator, we are trying to pioneer few of this. And we are also kind of participating in the industry's initiative to develop well-balanced methodology. So beyond the disclosure of the organization, so there are forward-looking metrics which need to be done, historical, peer, and forward views. So right now, this is not present, and there are a few companies who are researching and working on this. We are also one of them. In-depth scoring, allowing precise differentiation of companies, is a very important aspect of the future is moving. And also, after this data is put together, there is an expectation of independent assurance of the analytical process. How this there is a quality of this data. So if it is procured from public data sources, whether there's a very sophisticated mechanism of cleansing the data before it's being published. So this is also is one of the area which is in progress in the ethics 3.0 world, the upcoming world. So like how the whole blockchain industry is having a transition point of 2.5 between 2.0 and 3.0. I think ESG industry is also looking at a transition point, which is 2.5 between this 2.0 and 3.0. So the last but not least, organizations are doing this corporate ethics assessment of late, and not just a one-time thing. It's a continuous monitoring where when the assessments are conducted across organization, this can trigger automated issues and corrective actions based on which the readiness can be assessed, how whether the organization is ethically staying compliant. So this can be assessed. So, and with respect to visibility, so I think when we have the visibility of the third parties who are related to the corporation, certainly those can also contribute, and the role-based dashboards helps the stakeholders get visibility into ethics risk as well as the portfolio. So I think automating every step of the ESG ethics program is the future. So ethics 3.0 is not present, it is happening. There are a few innovators working on this like ours, but I think the way organizations are going is it's just they are conducting ethics assessment with the automated review and approval inside corporations. For the extended enterprise, there is a inherent ethics assessment for the ethics extended organization also. And once after this is kind of in place, there are this integrated ethics intelligence with ESG data providers and also action plans to manage and prevent ethics risks in the organization, like how the other governance and the other risks are kind of tracked. This ethics risk is being tracked at a corporation level, even need to be shared with board and investors. See, no large corporation um, who are forward looking can say that they are insulated from this, be it Google or Twitter. Everybody, we have seen their issues in the public domain in the past. So we know that all corporations have scope for improvement. So they should have the systems in place to identify ethics risk and put plans and manage and maybe if possible prevent. So there is this new expectation of ethics dashboard and report with respect to ESG, which is coming in place. I think the industry cannot keep greenwashing, blue washing, black washing anymore with respect to many of their efforts. I think we need to build a sustainable world. That's it. This is in a nutshell. So maybe I think I just want to open it up for a few questions. So we are, as I said before, a small plug about us. We are the world's first trust-based incident management platform for workplace and ethical violations. Provide actionable reports for management, anonymity for employees, powered by blockchain. I'll stop. I'll maybe unmute. Okay, feel free in case you have any comments, thought processes you want to share, please go ahead. Akilan, Maria, James, David.
Hey,
Yeah.
Go ahead, Akilan.
Yeah, I just joined in middle of the presentation, but whatever the points you presented, right? It's a great one to see that, and that vision, right? Vision, and the points listed, right? It was great to see that, and definitely, yeah, we have to just look for this kind of agreement or commitment from all the third parties, from whether it's an inside that organization or it's with our partners as well.
What are your thoughts about the ethics being treated in this current ESG landscape, Akilan, as a practitioner? So do you think there are scope for improvement, the industry is learning and improving? Go ahead, James. James, David, Maria, one of you can take.
Yeah, I'm looking. I was looking at the presentation you were going through, and one of the things that comes back to me is as I'm following what's going on in the industry, is the amount of interest, both positive as well as negative, towards ESG, right? And as I've had discussions with people regarding this, I have people who are rather pro ESG and who've deployed solutions, and people who are basically still of the mindset that, to make a long story short, turning somebody in or tattletaling is not considered good behavior, acceptable behavior, and it's more of a cultural thing rather than a governance thing. What do you see in terms of your discussions, in terms of the work you've been doing to address this perception that basically ESG is punitive as opposed to as opposed to preventive and preemptive?
I think it's a great question, James. I think we may not have answers because I think it's still an evolving framework. I think it's right now it's towards mostly like guidelines. There are no stricter frameworks even to punish somebody if they are kind of not following. So with respect to ESG, I think as like many of the other standards and regulations, North America is always following suit with respect to Europe Union. I think that may be the angle even for this ESG. I see Europe Union have a lot more standards, regulations with respect to supply chain and many aspects of measuring environment as well as social issues on governance issues. I think SEC is taking inspiration. I think the privacy is a good example on that context, James. For example, GDPR, I think it came almost more than 8 years ago. At least it started shaping up very deeply. But with respect to California and the whole of US, maybe I think whole of US as a federal regulation, they're just looking at privacy now. So despite, I think it's about the market priorities, I think, which may be different to compared to some of these geographies, which is guiding the industry as well. That's my take, actually.
Okay. And any feedback on whether people perceive ESG as potentially being, as opposed to being punitive, which is what we already talked about, to be rather preemptive? Because it's there, people may not necessarily do things that they would otherwise do. Have you received any feedback on that aspect? The reaction, the reporting is one element, but knowing that there is a better way of reporting, a more accurate, more precise way of reporting, do you feel that that might actually help be dissuasive towards ethics violation, in that the platform that you're talking about and what you're talking about evolves also into sort of a way to affect the corporate culture and change the corporate culture by knowing that mechanism is there and that people can use it, and therefore if you do something wrong, the odds are, if people are more willing to use it, your odds of getting caught also increase, right? Proportionally to the number of people who would be more willing to use it. I'm wondering if you've done had any feedback on that from your conversations.
I think primarily we are trying to have conversations with IBM. I think as a technology service provider, they are seeing this as a very important thing. They are even trying to realign their product governance, risk and compliance product as a RegTech, a regulatory technology product. And I think they are trying to align their entire efforts towards ESG compliance, which is a good stuff. So I think they are trying to integrate with Thomson Reuters, Supply Wisdom, and even companies like Nixwizzle. So I think it's great that industry is coming together. Maybe I think right now technology service providers are we are still in the storming and forming stages. I think it's mostly storming which is happening right now. I think maybe as the industry will kind of get little more clarity how this can pan out. I think the framework, there are 6 to 7 frameworks I see with respect to ESG. Global Reporting Initiative, multiple other frameworks which are guiding, but mostly they are also learning from the market, because nobody have any clue how some of these aspects can be measured, because there are no central authority. For example, you just want to know the regulatory actions of the some particular industry. You don't have any central mechanism where you can get almost all regulators across globe. There are no single vendor who's bringing the data. There are non-profit initiatives like good records, but there are kind of no single governmental initiative or industry initiative, I think, which is kind of not helping on few aspects. But I think industry will learn. I'm seeing a very positive thing for the future, James.
Thank you.
David, Maria, you have any questions? Feel free to shoot, or you have any opinions? Feel free to share. You can unmute yourself, Maria. Saket, you have anything to offer? Feel free. I think if there are no other points, I'll conclude the call. I just wanted to conduct this as a 45 minutes thing where you can learn a little bit. So I think I'll conduct this as a season of with multiple episodes. So in the future, I'll invite few of our advisors like David, James, and few others. I think today we saw some good interest. Maybe I'm not so sure about the timing. We got some good 68 interest from LinkedIn, but still I think we have maybe less participation. But starting somewhere is very important. So we would love to kickstart this conversation, maybe even invite a few of our industry partners or other thought leaders in the space, just to start having conversation. So I think my favorite topic maybe about next is how Tesla is interpreting. Tesla being a champion of this whole environmental stuff as a kind of a carbon-free cars, electric vehicle car. Despite that, I think I don't see the founder having a good comprehension on ESG. I think he has sullied ESG a lot. So personally, I was a little upset, but I think maybe we should have conversation. I think this is what is very much important. So what do you think, James, David? Do you have any opinions? I'll try to see. I'll try to put maybe a presentation next week.
Yeah, I think it would be based on what I heard today and based on some of our past exchanges and conversations. I think it would be interesting to see how you could summarize that, because as I see, there are two things. I see Nick's Whistle as a solution provider bringing something to the market, but at the same time, I see a market that is full of solutions, many of which are deployed with varying degrees of success, and yet there is something missing. There is a gap, and maybe that gap is not just Nick's Whistle as a solution, but Nick's Whistle as an enabling component within an existing solutions architecture through the OEM or white label type of integration. Basically, I think you have two opportunities there of being part of a different enterprise, large enterprise system as an enabler and provider of technology and expertise, and on the smaller size of the enterprise market, potentially as a user-driven platform where employees can, corporations, rather than deploying and implementing internally, could use it as a service because they're too small to have the justification to deploy a comprehensive large corporate enterprise solution, but yet have an unmet need, which may stem from evolving regulatory environments in various jurisdictions as well. And I think that I would like to find out more about the possibility of having sort of this, what you think about this dual approach of enabling component and collection of technology and tools and technology assets versus a self-contained a solution that you deploy as a service and that people access basically online or through a mobile app.
Sure thing, James. I would try to see if we can, as a technology innovator in the ethics reporting space powered by blockchain, I would try to use some of these conversations to take inputs from the industry. But I want to keep this more of Nix Whistle independent, just to listen to industry, talk about ESG in general, and build some conversations. Hopefully, I think we'll be able to take some of these inputs for our product roadmap and things. So, yes.
Yeah, and I was thinking because of your technology and the way you're looking at it and the way you're looking at blockchain as a service or as an enabling component, you still bring, it seems, based on my understanding of what I heard today and previously, you still bring that added, we'll call it added security blanket of the non-interference, non-tampering of the process, leveraging blockchain, which is, people always think about cryptocurrency and think about blockchain, but here you're using it basically to maintain the integrity of the reporting system and process. And I from a value proposition standpoint, I think that's, there are other ways of doing that. But on the other hand, you're using an architecture that more and more, and technology that more and more people are increasingly familiar with, and are looking at blockchain and other areas of the enterprise. So I think there's some more to dig there in terms of your value proposition about blockchain as an architectural component, both as a service strategy as well as a building block of an OEM or white label component of a larger enterprise solution that would be Nix Whistle inside kind of strategy.
Sure thing, James. I think there can be topics of whether blockchain and itself as a technology, whether it is ESG compliant, is consuming a lot of energy. There are a lot of conversations. Even this recent Ethereum merge, the whole industry, the crypto industry was waiting for, I think, which has happened just now. So that's primarily towards improving some of the efficiency aspect, proof of stake, proof of work, a few of those concepts and techniques. Maybe certainly we can have one of the discussions around how the blockchain industry is, whether they are ESG compliant in general, and also certainly we can have conversations around the ESG landscape, how the product landscape, whether the industries are able to adopt products to start measuring or reporting. So I think it's also still evolving. Maybe I think from the ethics reporting industry, I'm aware none of our leaders in the space, like Navex Global, have started even positioning themselves as ESG compliance, helping for ESG compliance for that matter. So S is a very small aspect. People don't have clarity on SMG yet. So that's where I think this is coming. I think IBM, there are a few leaders like IBM doing great job. I think we will, try to bring some of those guys eventually as part of this. I'm trying to do this as a season. Let's see how it goes, James.
Thank you.
Thank you, James. So if David, Patrick, Saket, and Maria, if you don't have anything, I will try to end the call now. And I'm looking forward for the different topic next week, maybe Tesla and ESG. Okay, cool. Have a good day. See you. Bye.